Why are people racist? Why do people keep trying to tell black people that racism isn't a thing? How hard is it to just not say the N-word? Well, we're back. I'm back today with a video that is completely different than anything I've ever done. It's not a vlog, it's not a fashion video. In light of everything that's going on in the world, in the US right now, I couldn't not say anything. If you know me, you know I'm extremely political, If you know me, you know I'm extremely political, I'm extremely active, extremely vocal. I wouldn't be me if I didn't say anything. My friends have asked me to do a how to be a better ally video. I'm a little nervous to make this, anything talking about race, anything talking about politics or even basic human rights, it can piss people off, especially if you're a person of color begging people to understand that your life actually means something and that you deserve to not die. I was going to avoid it, but I can't. So today I have a long ass list of tips and resources and things you can do to be a better ally to the black people in your life. This will also apply to other minority groups and other people of color, but I really wanted to focus on black issues because I am black. It means a lot to me. So you will also probably see my cat walking around in the background. Before I start giving tips and talking about it, keep in mind I'm not a spokesperson for every single black person out there. I'm extremely light skinned. I am only half black and I grew up in a predominantly white area, so my journey of understanding and my sort of journey with racism is a lot different than a lot of people's experience. So there's no way that I speak for everyone, but I wanted to use my platform and my privilege to sort of talk about these issues because I am a college educated woman, and yeah, I'm just gonna draw from my own experiences, my friends' experiences, go from there. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, get comfortable because we're about to get real uncomfortable. Don't expect the black people in your life to educate you. It's 2020, Google is free, libraries are open, Bing is a thing. There are so many opportunities for you to go out there and learn on your own and do all sorts of research. It's just endless. That's the beauty of the world now. We live in the age of information. There's so much out there. You just have to work a little extra and find it. Please stop using black people as your first resource. It takes time and energy for black people and people of color to educate our friends and try to explain to people that our lives actually matter, especially if it's like a close friend coming to you. Like if one of my friends came to me and was like, oh, Black Lives Matter? Why? Give me your position on that. I'd be like, what the fuck? Why should I have to explain to you why my life matters and why it's a problem that people are actively killing us? I don't know, it sounds not clicking, the math it's not adding up. People of color have to learn from a very young age. With that in mind, there's already that disconnect between people of color and white people. I grew up in a predominantly white area, and I grew up seeing my white friends run to the cops anytime there was a problem and the cops are actively there, but when I would interact with the black side of my family, the cops, they're not your friend, and you know that from age one. Showing that you were able to get this far in life, not understanding these issues or understanding racism, just shows the privilege that you've had in not having to face the reality of the situation. I'm not saying don't turn to your friends or don't have these conversations with the friends of color in your life, but just don't rely on them to be your Google or be your teacher, because that's not fair to them. We're all just regular people trying to stay alive and trying to have people understand that we deserve to live. I don't know. That leads me to my second tip. Go beyond social media. Nothing was more infuriating than Blackout Tuesday. I saw all of these black squares from people who were actively racist and people from my high school that I distinctly remember saying the N-word, or sorority girls who say the N-word when songs come on, or didn't speak up when racist things were happening in the chapter, or there were just so many people who had never said anything before suddenly posting this black child because it was trendy. I mean, you have Mitt Romney saying Black Lives Matter, and people who have actively worked against equality and justice suddenly saying that Black Lives Matter. And while that's great and we need people saying that, we also need people taking action and doing more than just posting a cute Instagram graphic. I'm so tired of seeing these things on people's Instagram stories. Suddenly, because there's a pastel background and a cute font, it's cute to talk about Black Lives Matter. If you're not moving beyond your social post or moving beyond your Instagram story, then you're not actually helping the issue. It's important to couple posting about it with actually taking action. I promise you the people of color in your life notice you only posting and not practicing what you're posting about. Which leads me directly into my third tip, practice what you preach. If you're suddenly posting on social media about how Black Lives Matter and how police brutality is a thing, or you're posting about environmental racism or things like that, you have to take action. I see plenty of people posting on social media but still hanging out with people who are actively racist or voted for Trump. You can't claim to be an ally to the community but still actively support people who work against Black people and against the community. For example, you can't be an ally if you voted for Trump. I'm sorry, but that's a fact. If you want to argue about that, go ahead and DM me on Instagram. I'll write a whole essay about it. We need you to call out the people in your lives. If your friends are singing the N-word along with songs, call them out. If your friends are laughing at microaggressions or making racist jokes or just laughing at the expense of people of color, I need you to call them out. I know it's uncomfortable and I know it's really awkward to have those conversations, but it's more uncomfortable for your friends of color to look at you and see you doing that. Also, the biggest change comes from like your immediate circle. That's where you can make the biggest impact. If you can stop everyone you know from saying the N-word or calling people a certain slur, then that's a good start. Unfortunately, we're at a point where being silent is not okay, and being silent means that you're okay with what's happening. I promise you, the people who are aware and who are taking action and who are making change notice you're silent. My fourth tip is to be an ally to everyone in the community. The Black community is a very, 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 very big community. We have gay people, we have disabled people, we have transgender people, we have non-binary people. All of these people belong to our community, and it's so important that we are using our voice to protect these groups. These groups need help now more than ever, and the voices of these groups are more likely to be ignored than anyone else. If you're posting about Black Lives Matter but aren't paying attention to trans issues, then you're part of the problem. Black trans women only have a life expectancy of 35 years. That's disgusting. There's been an increase in trans murders, and not actively talking about that or acknowledging that hurts the community as a whole. And this tip can apply to other Black people as well. Unfortunately, our community has a massive problem with homophobia and transphobia and also ableism. So we need to stick up for these groups and do our best to educate ourselves on their issues as well. I'm not trans and I'm not disabled, so while I don't experience the same issues that they do, I can use my privilege to educate myself and also educate the people around me. We have to make sure that we're working for all of us. So tip number 5. Put your money where your mouth is. If you can, donate. Find GoFundMes, mutual aid groups, find organizations that need your help. If you can, donate directly to Black people who need help. Twitter is a great resource for finding GoFundMes, links, Venmos, Cash Apps for people who actively need direct assistance. With that, support Black business. Thankfully, Black businesses, I feel like, have been sort of amplified throughout this whole thing. Like, I've seen a ton of influencers posting Black-owned fashion labels, Black-owned beauty brands, Black-owned things like that. If you have Black artist friends, support them, support their art. Also stop supporting racist companies. I'm talking Goya, Chick-fil-A, all those companies that have come out and actively said that they don't support Black Lives Matter. Cut them out. It sucks that your favorite bean company sucks, but we gotta move on. Society has progressed past the need for racist bean companies. We've gotta move on, y'all. That also goes for homophobic companies. Stop supporting Chick-fil-A, their chicken's dry anyway. Moving on to tip number 6. Don't get defensive. If you're being called racist or being called out for something problematic that you've said, chances are what you said was racist or problematic, and it made somebody uncomfortable or it offended somebody. If you're being called out by another Black person or another person of color, they're probably right, and you're probably being racist. It sucks to be called a racist. It sucks to be called a racist when you think you're not a racist. Maybe you didn't intend for whatever you said to be racist, but it came across as racist. You need to acknowledge it, fix it, learn from it, and move on. Don't get defensive. Don't say, oh no, it's not racist. I didn't mean it like that. It doesn't matter what your intention was. It was received as racist. It was racist. It's uncomfortable to be called racist, but it's more uncomfortable for us to hear people making jokes about watermelon or fried chicken or saying some other racist bullshit. Also, with not getting defensive, please don't cry. I'm begging you, please don't cry. I don't want to see white tears. None of us want to see white tears. We don't want to see that. If we can avoid crying when someone calls us the N-word, you can get past this without crying, I promise. Other white people may say you're not being racist. They may disagree with the Black people or people of color saying that you're racist, but it's not up to them to decide what's racist and what's not. White people don't experience racism. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with that and will say, oh, I've been called a cracker, I've been called this, I've been called that. The reality of the situation is, whatever hardship you experience is not a result of your skin color, and that is attributed to white privilege. My favorite word, and probably the hardest word for people who have no prior understanding of racism to understand and grasp. I'm not here to teach you about that. Do a little Googling. There's great resources out there. If you don't know what white privilege is, it does not mean that you're rich. It does not mean that you're wealthy. It just means that whatever hardship you're going through is not due to the color of your skin. Since you can't experience racism, you can't decide what's racist and what's not. I'm sorry to break it to you. I know it's hard to hear, but that's what it is. Tip number 7, understand your privilege and use it. The majority of us have different privilege, and it's important for us to understand what they are and how we can use it to help people that don't have privilege. For example, I know I'm extremely privileged. I am light skinned, I'm college educated, I make enough money to support myself and live. I have access to internet, I have access to clean water, I have access to all of these things that people within our own country don't. That already puts me on a privileged platform, and I have to use that to help people. I know it can be uncomfortable to acknowledge that you have some type of privilege. If you can watch this YouTube video, you probably enjoy some level of privilege. Y'all, please, I need white people to understand privilege. Y'all have to understand white privilege. Y'all have to understand that white privilege is one of the most effective ways to help minority communities. Unfortunately, people are way less likely to listen to people of color about issues of racism. We need white people to advocate for us in spaces where we can't get our foot in the door. If you notice that there are no black people in your office or at a meeting or in whatever space you're gathering in, it's important that you use your privilege and your knowledge to advocate for people that don't look like you. For example, if you are at work and you're in a meeting and you notice that there is a black woman in the room and she's the only one and she looks uncomfortable, or she's quiet, or she's getting talked over, or her ideas are ignored, it's important for you to use your privilege and be like, hey, maybe we should listen to insert name here, or I think this person had a great idea, or I think this person said this earlier in the meeting. Keep learning and keep fighting. While this movement and these issues may be new to you, they're not new to the black people in your life. Black people are forced to learn from day one about all these issues. We're forced to recognize police brutality. We're forced to recognize that we're going to be treated differently in school. We're born with having to understand these issues, and they don't really get any better as you get older. Just become more aware. Choose whether you want to take an active role in fighting injustice, or if you want to do just enough to get by and not get hurt and make sure that you survive. There are people of color out there who have literally given their lives to fighting injustice and racism. While you may be 22 or 16 or 30 or 50 or 70 just learning about these things, it's important that you don't stop here. Keep learning about Black Lives Matter. Keep learning about all the other issues that are tied into racism. Learn about classism, capitalism, exploitation of labor. Learn about redlining. Learn about the prison industrial complex. I know it's really easy to just kind of like tune all of this out because racism might not affect your day-to-day activity, but black people don't get that privilege. We can't just turn it off. We can't just ignore it. And the last thing I want to say, if you got nothing else from this video, if you disagree with literally everything I've said, please stop saying the N-word. Stop singing along with it in songs. Stop saying it because your black friend said you could say it. I feel like that's step one. That could be step one for a lot of white people. A lot of white people don't get that. I don't really know why. Just don't say it. These are all my tips for being a better ally and different ways that you can help the people of color in your life. I really hope you learned something and have thought about different ways that your actions can impact the people around you or affect change in your immediate circle. I will say this is just a starting place. If you do have questions or you want to talk about anything specific, feel free to leave a comment down below, hit me up on Instagram, tweet me. I know I said that you shouldn't ask people of color to be your #1 resource, but I feel like me putting this video out there, I kind of offered myself to you, the viewer, the public. If you do have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Hit me up with your most uncomfortable questions. If you have something that you're scared to ask the people of color in your life, send it my way. I'm ready to educate. I'm ready to argue. I don't know if I'll ever do like a human rights or political video again. I've always wanted to keep my channel kind of just a creative space for like fashion and lifestyle content because I do get very tired of talking about racism and how terrible the world is all the time. That's the thing about racism, you can't really escape it and it's always there, so love that for us. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!